And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting pretty close to a Roki Sasaki decision. Finally, I've been waiting for this for, it feels like, honestly, you could probably say years at this point. We've been hearing about Roki Sasaki now for, I think you got it at least the last 2 years, even a couple of years before that, probably. But it looks like we are finally getting to the point where he is at the decision time. It is Roki decision time, just like LeBron when he chose the Miami Heat years back. You know, listen, I know a lot of people hated on the LeBron decision, but, honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing Roki Sasaki sitting somewhere, with a camera there and just announcing. I feel like that would be pretty fun, to be completely honest. But we're not going to get that. But in the end, we will know. I think there's a good chance by the end of the week, right? The international signing period starts on the 15th in a couple of days. We had seen a report not too long ago that it might be a couple of days after that period starts. So I wouldn't be surprised if, so today's the 13th, if we saw something by Friday, possibly, or at least by Sunday. I think we will know something by the end of the week. And we do know the 3 teams that are the finalists. It's the Dodgers, no surprise there. We have the Padres, no surprise there. They've been involved for a while, but there's also the Blue Jays. But before we talk about those teams, let's talk about the teams that were told today that they were out of the bidding. And also, everyone, thank you for stopping by here tonight. Not a long stream here for tonight. Just going to kind of run through this one. We're going to go live on Fenway Faithful in a little bit as well. And but everyone, again, thank you for stopping by. A lot of familiar faces in the chat. Let's get to it here. Here we go. So the teams that were told today that they were out, I think the most notable one that got social media a buzzing were the Yankees. I was starting to wonder if maybe the Yankees, in a way, could be sort of like, I don't want to say a dark horse, but because the Dodgers and the Padres have been so heavily favored, I was kind of thinking like, the Yankees, could they maybe just emerge as like I said, a bit of a dark horse? And, because they have had a lot of success with Japanese pitchers over the years, when it comes to the endorsements and whatnot off the field, there's been talks, mainly coming from Jim Bowden. You got to take what he says with a grain of salt. But he did mention a couple of times where obviously you got Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto with the Dodgers. They're getting a lot of the endorsement deals. With the Yankees, Roki would definitely get a lot of that. But there's been talks for a while now, even coming from his agent, that he would be okay with signing with a small market or a smaller market. So people were thinking, maybe not the Yankees, right? Huge market. But then, the Dodgers, they're a big market as well. So the advantage of the Dodgers, though, is they're on the West Coast, which is the geographical advantage for guys coming over from Japan. So, but either way, the Yankees told today that Roki Sasaki will not be signing with them. It was not just the Yankees in New York, though. It was the Mets as well. That was reported by Joel Sherman. The Rangers, hey, go back years ago. Yu Darvish went to the Rangers, right? The Rangers, they got a lot of talent there on that team. They've done very well with their player development. That was another dark horse in my mind, but they were also informed today that they were out of the running. Speaking of dark horses, it had been mentioned at one point out there that maybe the Diamondbacks could be this surprise team, but they ended up not even getting a meeting, according to John Gambadoro of Arizona Sports. The Giants were told they were out of it. The Cubs were told. That was another team, right? The Cubs, they've been pretty heavily invested when it comes to the pitching lab over the years. So I thought, maybe the Cubs could have a chance as well. Obviously, bringing in Shota Imanaga last year, you got Sai Suzuki there. So I thought maybe there was a chance the Cubs could have a shot. But in the end, those are the teams that were told today that they are not in it anymore. But talking about the finalists here, we got the Dodgers, we got the Padres, we got the Blue Jays. I'm going to dive into each of these teams. Now, getting to a couple of tweets here, where we got a few things out there, right? What the heck happened to my page? Here we go. So, Bob Nightingale, he put this out at around 4 o'clock Eastern time. The Dodgers and the Padres have been the overwhelming favorites to sign Roki Sasaki for the past year. Nothing has changed. Still, the heavy favorites. But then he also put this one out there today. My goodness. Twitter land is killing me right now. The Padres are cautiously optimistic he's coming their way. So, hey, Bob Nightingale, that's another one where over the years he's definitely had some misses as well, but he does put cautiously optimistic. Now, there was a video that was going around. I guess someone had a camera on Petco Park. I don't know what was going on here, but it looks like Roki Sasaki was in the building at Petco Park. And of course, this doesn't want to load. And, there are people commenting on this saying, that's you, Darvish. No, it is not. Like, I swear, when people put these comments, I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is clearly not you, Darvish. That is clearly Roki Sasaki. He's got the high leg kick there. So, this is Roki in Padres colors. And I was seeing some people saying that this was possibly Ethan Salas, top catching prospect. You had some people sitting over here on the side. So, for who knows? I don't know if this was today. I don't know if this was at some point in the past week or whatever it may be. But again, I don't know what the process was like for, other teams. Did he do this with other teams? Did he get team memorabilia to wear while he was throwing and whatnot? Again, I don't know. I don't know if he's gone to Toronto and actually thrown for them. I don't know if he's actually thrown in front of the Dodgers people. I don't know. So, but either way, you have to think if you're a Padres fan, right, this is a pretty good sign because either way, at least he has gotten to the point where he is throwing in front of the Padres staff. So, hey, pretty interesting to see that. Now, if we were to kind of dive into all of the teams here, right? Let's start off with the Dodgers, the heavy favorites. Listen, the Dodgers, I mean, we all know the reasons why they are a favorite here. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, it has that comfort factor there. They have always been big with the Japanese players, even going back, several years now. Hideo Nomo going way back when. The Dodgers are a very good landing spot just for that reason alone, because you have the comfort there. But on top of that, they're coming off a World Series championship. They have been very successful over the years, making the postseason now for how many years in a row? Feels like 82 years at this point. But another factor that I think the Dodgers have going for them is you got a lot of depth here, where if you were to go to a bigger staff, right, or if you were to go to a place where you have a 6-man rotation, then you could do that here with the Dodgers, right? Obviously bringing in Blake Snell, Yamamoto, of course, Glasnow, but then Ohtani's coming back to the rotation. You could do a 6-man rotation here, which something, Roki Sasaki is very familiar with, and that could also be great for Shohei Ohtani coming back, from elbow surgery. That could end up being great. When you just look at all the boxes that are being checked, the Dodgers make a lot of sense. Now, the only thing I hold back with when it comes to the Dodgers is the market size. Again, that's been brought up. That's not an opinion of mine. That is something that has been brought up by his agent, where, and it's been talked about with other people out there, other reporters, where there could be possibly more of a comfort factor. I know I mentioned the comfort factor with the Dodgers, obviously having some, guys from Japan as well, star players there. But, he might want to be in a smaller market. The Dodgers would be a massive market. And you got to think about it from a, if you're looking at it realistically, if you're going to the Dodgers, man, and you got Ohtani, Yamamoto there, the media, they're going to be wanting pictures, companies are going to be trying to pull you left and right, trying to get this commercial, trying to get this endorsement, trying to get those three together for whatever opportunities out there. You know what I mean? It would just be I wonder how that would be. We haven't really seen anything like that before, where you got three stars. Obviously, a megastar in Shohei Ohtani, but then Yamamoto, huge, and then Roki Sasaki as well. Can't even imagine what that would be like, where if you're just trying to focus on the baseball point of view, it could end up being a slight distraction, especially for someone that is pretty young. I guarantee Roki has a lot of people that he trusts in his ear, where they're giving him the right advice, not just for, hey, you need to go to this team, to win. But I think he has people that are telling him things where they're thinking about him, the person, right? If there are people in his life that he is close to that genuinely think the Dodgers might not be the best situation for him, if you're looking at it from a developmental point of view, for him to focus, then I wonder if there are some people out there that could be telling him, like, hey, you got to remember the Dodgers, there's going to be a lot going on there, man. It's going to be a frenzy. Sure, yeah, they're great. Obviously, there's a ton of good players there. I mean, they're going to be going for a championship every single year. Yeah, go ahead and sign there, but you have to remember, there are going to be a lot of, things coming up with you, and is that something you want to do, right? Not trying to take anything away from the Dodgers and Dodgers fans. I know there's a lot of you here in the chat. I'm just being realistic, right? Because again, it comes down to, what does he prefer? If he is okay with that, if he is okay with a lot of things that come up, then yeah, of course. The Dodgers, I think, make a lot of sense. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Now, if you're looking at it from the Padres' point of view. Now, if you're looking at it just from a need factor, then yeah, the Padres, they could definitely need Roki Sasaki, especially with Joe Musgrove going to be out for all of 2025. My goodness. I mean, that would be a very good rotation. And you know what? They could really, with Roki coming over to Major League Baseball and adapting to the States, with Roki in the fold, they would have some pretty good depth themselves. Obviously, the Dodgers, they got a lot of guys over there, but you would have Cease, you would have King, you would have Darvish, obviously. We'll talk about him in just a second. You would have Roki, you would have Waldron, you would have Vasquez. You got some other guys there. So the Padres, they got a lot of depth as well if they wanted to roll, maybe not roll the six-man rotation, but if they needed to have guys, spot start, have a six-man rotation at times, then yeah, the Padres could definitely do that. I know AJ Preller, over the years, we've seen the reports where he is very fond of Roki Sasaki. He's had his eye on him for a long time, probably just like the Dodgers, man. A lot of teams have had their eye on him, but there just seems to be something in the air when it comes to the Padres, Preller, and Sasaki, right? There seems to be something there. But then the one thing that the Padres have compared to the Dodgers, right, while they do have Ohtani and Yamamoto, they have Yu Darvish there. And, it's been described before where Darvish is like he's a mentor figure for Roki, almost like I've read that it's like a Godfather-like situation there. He was a huge mentor for him during the World Baseball Classic. He's a close friend of his. That could be something that really ends up being a big factor. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what the decision is. But, I think the Padres have a lot going for them. If you're looking at it from a competitive point of view, the one team that pushed the Dodgers to the limit this past year in the postseason were the Padres. If you're really looking at it from that point of view. No one else really took them to the limit. The Mets, they, gave them a couple of bumps in the end. Didn't get as close as the Dodgers, as the Padres did. The Yankees, I mean, not really. The Yankees completely fell apart in the World Series. The Padres were the Dodgers' toughest matchup in the postseason. Add Roki Sasaki to the fold, who knows? Maybe that could end up helping them get over the hump. I don't know. We'll have to see on that. But then the Dodgers, they've obviously, made some improvements this offseason as well. But with Roki in the fold, they would definitely be able to go toe-to-toe, or at least, close enough to toe-to-toe with the Dodgers, in my opinion. So I think there's a lot of things going here for the Padres. Obviously seeing this video earlier, I do find that interesting. Again, has this happened with the Blue Jays, where he's gotten some some memorabilia from the team, team colors to wear. I don't know. There hasn't been any other videos anywhere like that. So, I don't know. But this is out there. He did get to the point where he was throwing for them. Now, the one thing that could end up holding the Padres back now is a recent development where the Padres ownership situation. This is an interesting factor, in my opinion. I've been kind of on the fence. Now, I could see where people are like, Robbie, obviously this is going to be a factor. The ownership is completely, going through turmoil right now. How would it not be a factor? Well, I look at it from the point of view where, again, it's kind of within the family, right? So in the end, it's going to end up, well, it's going to be, whoever ends up getting control of the team, either side are obviously very close to the late Peter Seidler. So I just wonder if maybe that could be a bit, I don't want to say overblown because it is kind of a big deal. I just wonder, it's not like it's like some other random guy, coming into the fold trying to buy the team, right? It's just a matter of who's going to get control of the team, right? It's either going to be the widow of the late Peter Seidler or the brothers, right? So at least it's, in a sense, still in-house. You know what I mean? So, but everyone is still there with the Padres. You still got the coaching staff intact. You got player development personnel still intact. AJ Preller's still there. So in the end, though, it could be a factor. It absolutely could. At the end of the day, right? Success or failure trickles down from the top. That could end up being a thing. And that's something where I think his agent comes into play, right? And where if Roki, talking to his agent, hey, what do you think about this? Is this a big deal? Like, should I not go here? Who knows what his agent has said? But to me, in my personal opinion, the fact that the Padres are a finalist at this point, that kind of tells me that it might not be as big of a deal as you might think. Because if this was that big of a deal, then the Padres are probably out of it at this point, right? I mean, then it would probably be down to the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, just like it was for Shohei Ohtani. So that's kind of my thinking. I feel like, because this came up over a week ago. If this was a big deal, I don't think the Padres would have been announced as a finalist. And Bob Nightingale putting this out there, saying that they're cautiously optimistic he's coming their way. So again, I don't think it's that big of an issue. It could be something that does come into play. If he ends up choosing the Dodgers, maybe that ends up being the breaking point there. We'll see. But we got one more team to talk about. Let's talk about the Blue Jays, right? Now, the Blue Jays, there's been a lot of negativity towards the Blue Jays here over this offseason. They could really use someone like Roki Sasaki, man. With the way their offseason has gone, they haven't been able to land anyone. They offered a lot of money for Juan Soto. Who knows how close they actually got there. The only guy they've been able to land is Jeff Hoffman. And we had another report today where we had a report the other day that the Orioles had pulled out because of medicals. But now we saw today that the Braves were actually getting in on Jeff Hoffman. And it looked like maybe they had something. I think it was a 5-year deal reportedly. And I guess he was also going to be in the running to possibly be a starter. But they saw the medicals and they backed out. The Blue Jays, they could have, but that kind of tells me here with the Blue Jays, has it gotten to the point where literally the best guy they're going to be able to land is the guy that failed 2 medicals with 2 different teams? I mean, that's even though, yeah, they got one of the best guys on the market, it ends up being where maybe that could end up being a disaster. The Blue Jays really need something to go for them right now. Really, for me, when it comes to Toronto, you're looking at the long-term outlook. I feel like I've mentioned Vlad with the Blue Jays a million times this offseason up to this point. What's going to happen with the extension there? I don't know. Bo Bichette's going to be a free agent. Sure, you got some young talent, but listen, in 2026, this Blue Jays team could look a lot different than what we see right now. Bo Bichette, I don't think is going to be coming back to Toronto. I think there's a chance, depending on how Toronto plays, Bo Bichette could be gone by the trade deadline. Same with Vlad. I think both these guys could end up being gone. And then you got, young guys that are coming up, George Springer on the tail end of his contract, Kevin Gausman. Who knows if the Blue Jays have a bad season? Does he end up being on the move at some point? He's coming up to free agency here. Chris Bassett has been mentioned a couple of times this offseason as a possible trade candidate. So I think if you're looking at it from Roki's point of view, I think you're really looking at the long-term part of the Blue Jays there. Now, maybe that could end up being, this might sound crazy, possibly an advantage where, let's say the Blue Jays, they fall out of it. They lose some of these guys here, Vlad and Bo. They end up moving some guys in trades and they got to go through a rebuild. Maybe that could be something of preference to Roki. Again, if development is a big thing to him and he doesn't want really a whole lot of distractions, maybe he's okay with going to a team that could go through a rebuild or at least a retool. You know what I mean? So maybe that could be appealing to him. And the one thing with the Blue Jays that I've heard over the years is they have, an organization that players like playing for, right? I pulled this one up from this past year, Justin Turner saying, how much he enjoyed his experience with the Blue Jays. The way they treat their players and the families here is off the charts. So that kind of makes me think of when Shohei Ohtani signed with the Angels, right? One of the big things there is that, and people are saying, oh, the reason he went to the Angels is because the Dodgers didn't have a designated hitter. Well, he could have gone to other teams in the American League, right? But the one thing he pointed out at the time was he felt a connection to the Angels and he felt like a family-like atmosphere. Maybe that's something that could come into play with the Blue Jays, We'll see. They really could use Roki. I mean, that would be big for them, as he's kind of getting his feet wet in Major League Baseball over the next couple of years as they go through a rebuild. If they do end up losing Vlad and, Bo, then yeah, that could be their guy for them. And that would be huge. We'll see, though. Right now, if you were to ask me where I think he's going to land, it's tough, man. I really think... listen, I would really, as a Red Sox fan, I would hate if Sasaki ended up going to the Blue Jays. But for me personally, I feel like it's the Dodgers or the Padres at this point. This video is very interesting. Again, I don't know when this video was made. If this was like today, well, that's very intriguing. I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard to say just because I don't know how much of a factor this whole ownership thing is with the Padres. It's hard to say. Even Ken Rosenthal talked about this today on Fair Territories. He says it's not really known whether or not it's a factor. I don't know, man. A part of me, I think it's really 50-50 at this point. I would probably have to lean towards the Dodgers just because there's a lot of good things going there, and they really could ease him in there, even though, it's like this is prime time. They still, I think, would be a good landing spot where they can just kind of be a comfortable, in a way, yes, you have a lot of the media attention there, but almost in a way because of how much pitching depth they have and how much of a support system they have, how much of a comfortable landing spot that could end up being. But again, but then again with the Padres, right? You also have a comfortable landing spot here. You have someone that he knows and he respects a ton in Darvish as a good a good mentor for him. They are competitive. Dylan Cease, he's probably on his way out of town from San Diego, the way they've been spending here over the last couple of years. I wonder if Dylan Cease is going to end up going back to the Padres. He's going to get a monster contract in free agency next year, being a Scott Boras client. You could potentially see Roki Sasaki, he's your opening day guy in 2026, and this year he could really just focus on easing his way into Major League Baseball, but also a team that is still competitive. You wouldn't have as much of the media attention and the fanfare. You would have a lot of it, but I don't think you would have nearly as much as you would in LA. it would be less with the Padres. A part of me all offseason has been very intrigued about the possibility of the Padres. I feel like there's something different there, but then I also just wouldn't be surprised. Is it my heart trying to talk because I really would like Roki? Nothing against the Dodgers, but I would really like for Sasaki to go to the Padres, personally, because I like a little variety. You know what I mean? To see all these guys, these superstars, just going to the Dodgers. Hey, I get it. The Dodgers have earned that. They've had all the success, but a part of me would like to see him go a separate way. But I'm also biased. I would also love to see a primetime matchup of Shohei Ohtani versus Roki Sasaki in a pitching duel. Yamamoto versus Sasaki. I would love that. That'd be amazing. I'll go probably a little against the grain. I'll say he ends up landing with the Padres. I'll probably be wrong. He'll probably go to the Dodgers. But at this point, I really do think it's 50-50. Could he already have a decision made? Could he maybe already have his mind made up going to the Dodgers? Maybe he's already got his mind made up going to the Padres. Who knows? Maybe he likes the Blue Jays. Maybe he wakes up tomorrow and says, you know what? I like that. I like the Blue Jays, man. They're pretty good. No, I don't know. I'd probably say 50-50 right now. Dodgers, Padres. I'll go Padres because it's against the grain. But in the end, will we be surprised if he goes to the Dodgers? I wouldn't be. Who would be who would be really at the end of the day? Now, we'll just wait and see what ends up happening. But everyone, I'm going to be heading on over to Fenway Faithful here. There's not really a whole lot to talk about here tonight. It's really just the Roki stuff. Want to keep it short and sweet for the replay viewers so they can catch this overnight, especially on the West Coast. But everyone, I'm going to head out of here. I'm going to get ready for Fenway Faithful. We got some Alex Bregman stuff to talk about there. And we got Mailbag Monday, where I'm going to be taking some questions over there for Red Sox-related stuff. But everyone, go have yourself a good rest of your night. And hopefully we get a decision here soon on Roki Sasaki. But everyone, that's all for tonight. I'll talk to you next time.